All right. I'll just do like a little bit of I'll just do say three, two, one and do an intro and we'll start. If you see me sort of like looking like I'm typing, I just kind of type notes a little bit just to keep track of things while the episode's going on. So don't think I'm
Sure. Well,
nodding off or
you've
anything.
done it. What I think you've done 150 or something, haven't you? Or 100 and
Yeah, you're
something. So
you're episode
you
143. Yeah.
you've got this down.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I don't know. There's always
Yeah,
something. Yeah.
yeah, for sure.
Right on. Okay.
All
Three,
right.
2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to A Hoops Journey, episode 143. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We are sitting down today with an absolute Canadian, British Columbian legend. I took notes. I cannot list off all the accomplishments to intro the pod because that would just probably extend it about 15 minutes. A Hall of Famer from Salmon Arm to Laurentian to Division One in Oregon, SFU. It goes on and on and on. A bit of nostalgia for me because I remember growing up, going up to the old SFU gym back in my day and watching, the likes of Michelle Hendry and Andrea Schneider play in packed gymnasiums. Always a great crowd. And at that time, there were times when the girls' game would end and the gym would clear out, and the poor men sometimes got stuck with maybe just family and friends. So, uh, our women's national team coach. What else can I say? We have none other than Miss Allison McNeill with us tonight. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me. Yeah, excited to
It's
be here.
it's our honor and pleasure. And me being someone who was close with a lot of the guys and some of the girls on the SFU team back in the day, this podcast has brought some full circle moments and it's super fun to be able to have the opportunity to chat with you about X's and O's, your story, everything you've been through. But how is life for you these days? You're golfing a lot, but
Yeah.
what else are you doing? First of all, reveal the secret. How was the score today? Is it something that we want to talk about? And
No,
how,
today is not
okay,
something we want to talk about. I'll
okay.
say I had fun. Yeah, not my best day today, but I
Okay.
did have a cortisone shot in my hip yesterday, so
Oh,
I was a little sore today. So, but I'm doing well. Yeah, golf, travel, some still coaching clinics. I think I did about 5 last year.
mhm.
Working with a couple of kids individually. Yeah, just a little bit of everything. And I do mentoring for the Coach Association of Canada. Been doing
Mhm.
that for about, I don't know, 6 years maybe. And it's the Enhanced Female Mentorship Program. So I've mentored some unbelievable coaches and amazing people. And I don't know, mentoring, we don't have to get into that, but it's
Sure we
great
do.
for the mentee and the mentor. And so it's
Mhm.
just been so fun for me. I mean, my mentee last year was an elementary school teacher, coach in Alberta, and we've become quite close. And then I've had 3 U Sport coaches. Michelle Sung at Manitoba, and she's over at the Olympics with the Paralympic team. Just I don't know, like you just get such a rush out of working with these young female coaches. So I'm doing a lot of that and loving it.
Good for you. I think that's a
Yeah,
huge thing on the men's side that we like, at least in the province, being involved with the high school game is sort of that who's helping the younger generation sort of figure it out,
yeah,
right? And how do we convince them that coaching high school is a good thing, or maybe getting them prepped for
yeah.
college? Or now you said other than the relationship and the connection, what else is that you enjoy so much about it? Is it just the growth that you get to see in these people, or is it just a unique
The
thing for
mentoring.
you?
Yeah,
Yeah.
the mentoring. No, well,
So I
I
love
was in
that.
on both Mike and I were in on the pilot project. And so that was kind of neat. I was in the ground floor. I didn't do the research. Obviously, I'm not a researcher, but a couple of women from the University of Toronto did the research, and I just got to be able to learn it all about mentoring and yeah, I like everything about it. We get professional development. So we'll get Zoom calls with unbelievably great speakers about coaching development. And then that you work with these young people that have some really great ideas that are like, I'm like, whoa, I didn't know that. And so,
Hmm.
I'm usually taking notes when we're talking. And you get to help them through things. That one thing is about mentoring is that you're not trying to make a mini you. You're just trying to help them be the best that they can be. And so I just try to, if I've been through something, I'll give an example or a story, but I'm not going to say this is how I did it and you should do that too, because it's not always that way. But I think just having an experienced voice that they can bounce things off of is
Hmm.
probably awesome. And then I just am learning because young with great new ideas, and the technology is like, whoa, blowing me away.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's cool. It's been really fun. So I mostly basketball, but I've also mentored a couple track coach, and yeah, so it just sort of depends how they match you.
Very cool.
Yeah,
And
it's
are
fun.
and are you finding these days, like when you first decided to quote unquote retire, you just listed off a bunch of things that you're doing.
Yeah.
Um, did you find yourself having to reinvent a little bit of that, creating boundaries and stuff, and being able to do what's important to you and Mike, and taking time for
Mm-hmm.
that, and having to say no? Like how does
Yeah.
one go from being so involved in so many things, and now you're doing
Yeah.
very cool things? Just interested to
Mm-hmm.
know that side of it, and where you're able to
Yeah.
enjoy your time, but also do other things that fill your bucket too.
Yeah, great question. Because uh,
Hmm.
I mean, I had people in my life that said, "Oh, you'll never stop coaching. You'll never quit. You'll never." I'm like, you don't actually know me. You don't know me. You don't know who I am. And I
Hmm.
love coaching and I love being with the team, but I'm also pretty obsessive compulsive. So my preparation is like too much probably. And I think that it just was really burnt out after the Olympics, and I was really
Yeah.
tired and I was really emotional, and it was a great run and a great ride, and we played well played our best basketball at the Olympics. But so that we finished that in, I guess, late August. In September, October, November, I was working for Tri Cities, my kind, and doing some uh, the contract work with them. So I was driving out to Coquitlam to different gyms and working with
Hmm.
kids, and it was great. But I remember a couple of times driving home and just bawling, and I'm like, what is going on? Like what?
Hmm.
But I was just tired. I was really burnt out. I'd given everything I possibly could for 12 years, well, 16 total with the national team, but
Oof.
some with the junior program. And so I thought I could do it again, but I didn't think it was really good for me. so,
Yeah.
and I thought, like these players deserve every bit part of me. And if I can't think I can do that, and there were other things I wanted to do, mentoring being one of them. And I think I really want to coach at high school. I know people are going to go like, really? I'm like, no, that had always been a goal of mine.
Hmm.
I originally had wanted to go back to Salmon Arm. That wouldn't have worked out, and coach and try to win a provincial championship there. But so other things started to come in my mind more than the national team. I'm like, you can't be the national team coach if that's not the only thing. I feel like the
Sure.
only thing on your mind, or the biggest thing at that time. So yeah, then in December I just decided I didn't think I really wanted to do it anymore. I'm not sure. I think capacity wise, it would have been, I could have done it. It might have made me, I mean, it might have killed me, but I think so. Yeah. And then, I mean, I kind of knew, I assumed Lisa Tomitis would get the job. I mean, I didn't know for sure, and she's so capable and so good. And I thought, we're in a high, we're leaving it in good hands. It just felt like the right time to leave
Hmm.
and do some other things, like you said. So that wasn't that hard. And then
Hmm.
other things just were like, okay, what are some things I wanted to do?
Hmm.
And I've been able to do them. So that's great.
Oh, good for you. That's awesome. I love
Yeah.
to hear that.
Yeah.
Um,
Though I'll
mhm.
admit, one of the things, because I think people need to understand the vulnerabilities. When I left the national team, and this is not really who I am, but I kept thinking, but well, I'm not going to be a national team coach anymore.
Mm.
Like, because it's a bit of your identity, and you go into a gym and you can talk to kids and you can bring influence, and I think a positive way. And so that was a little something. And at one point I had to slap myself and say, well, that's not why you do it. You didn't do it to have the name. And I never did, but I did have those moments where, dang, I'm not going to be able to go into a gym and talk to these kids and really ignite a fire maybe, but you can find other ways. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, that's great
Yeah.
reflection. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
Um, Before we just talk about you as a young person, where you started, have you in this time um, taken the time to think about, because this was something I was going to ask you at the end, but now the way we're talking,
Mm-hmm.
I'm loving this. So I'm gonna fire it at you now and just think, have you thought about the amount of people that you've impacted through the game of basketball? I mean, I think of, for me, the Karen Edgels, right? The people that I've
Yeah.
known for a super long time, and the list is way longer before and after her. Have you had that moment yet, or do you just sort of roll along, and when you get a nice email from someone, it's a, good for the soul type of thing? But like you
Yeah.
said, that's not why
Yeah.
you were in it. But let's
No,
be honest with
no.
ourselves. The amount of people that have come across your path and spoken highly or had a great experience learning from you is multiple decades.
Yeah, thank you.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean I love the game. I mean, I've always loved the game. Of all the sports that I played, why I picked basketball, I'm tiny, and but it just was the one that grabbed my heart. So you just to
Now
me, you
your
don't.
hips thanking you. Yeah.
Yeah, things are lots of my things. Yeah. So I don't know. I love the game, but as I went further into coaching, when I got into coach after finished playing, I think the people, I mean, obviously the people, and then I realized, well, that's what I really liked about why I picked basketball. I like team sport, and I like that you can be on the floor and really influence the game if you're a good passer or you're a good defender. So I think when you coach for a long time and you share your passion with people, then that's something you share your relationships with them. I mean, the trips that we did, I mean, I don't even know how I did it. And I think about in the van and driving all over. I mean, I drove them everywhere. We didn't have a bus, didn't have money for a bus. And yeah, those are times you'll never forget. And if I can say one thing that I'm outstanding at, and that is recruiting and character. I get character. Like, I get what it means to be a good character person and someone that will train and someone that wants to win. And I just recruited, I think, both with the national team. That's more selection than recruiting, but certainly at Simon Fraser, I had unbelievably great people. And so that's a fun journey. And so then usually when you have great people, you kind of stay in touch and they help change your life and you change their life. And I would say, Mike and I also not having children, they kind of became a bit of our family.
Sure.
Every team that we had became a bit of family, and lots of them I still stay in touch with and stay at their house and visit. And so that's really cool. I'm sure there's a few that don't like me so much.
Sure. I mean,
there's always that
right?
in coaching. Yeah.
For
yeah.
sure.
But I mean, as long as I think you try to treat everybody with respect and honesty, integrity. Yeah. So no, those years at SFU were phenomenal. I mean, the years at Oregon were great. The national, I mean, I don't, they were also great. SFU sort of has a special place in my heart because I was such a young coach, and we'd go on those road trips and, they'd play all the grunge rock, which none of my friends believe it. That's what I listen to. I mean, I just love it all. I was just seeing that Linkin Park got a new, lead singer, and I'm all excited. And
don't give too much away for the end. Save that for the end.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, I will.
Yeah.
But yeah, so those people are very, very important to me. They've been important in my life, and I try to keep in touch with as many as I can without bothering them.
Love it. Where did that recruiting instinct come from? Was it learned from parents? Was it reading books? Was it other mentors when you were younger? And how did you have that? Because that was going to be something I wanted to talk to you about, was your ability to not only get really good basketball players, but good community people, good students, good mentors and role models for younger women. Where did that come from, and how were you able to? Was it natural? Like I was intrigued about
question.
that part of it.
Well, I mean, I had a good family. I had really great parents. They were small business owners, and they were just good people. They gave us a lot of leeway with some tough love when we needed it, but my sister and I, and so I guess a bit there, but I think I played for really good people, coaches. So my high school coach was a huge influence, and I moved from Princeton to Salmon Arm, so I was the transfer kid. I transferred myself there. They didn't even know who I was, but I had a teacher in Princeton who had been in Salmon Arm, and I had another teacher in Princeton who had been at New West. They like one had grown up in Salmon Arm, and they both told me, you should go somewhere to play basketball because you're so passionate and you love it, and you should go to New West and you should go to Salmon Arm. So I visited them both with my dad. We contacted my dad did, and my mom was busy working, and I liked Salmon Arm because New West, I went through the high school and I went, holy cow, this is bigger than my hometown. I can't do it. I couldn't do it. So Salmon Arm, my high school coach there was Joe Kupke, and he's in the Basketball BC Hall of Fame. He's passed away, but wonderful guy, and he put good character, teamwork, team play, the way you treated each other. He put that front and center. And so he was probably, between my parents and him, I think that's sort of what I learned, how you treated people properly. But like I'd say I'm really kind and a good person, but I'm not weak. And I think, you kind of have to be tough in coaching. You have to, and empathetic. So that's what I look for. And then I thought, geez, these women will be amazing to be around. So I had a little selfish thing in there too. Like, I'm going to travel and I just think you win with character. I mean, people can argue that talent, whatever. I'm sure we have lots of, but that was my belief, that you win with character. And I wanted people that were coachable and that weren't afraid of a little adversity, and they could be pushed a little bit. And I mean, we trained hard, and same with the national team. I think when we came in as a staff, we kind of put the bar a little higher and said, if you don't come in like at this level of fitness, if you don't come in, how hard you're working and going overseas and playing pro, then, you may not be involved. So I
Yeah.
think it was a combination of all those things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great time to shift. So you brought up something really cool there. I think about how many coaches in Princeton who have this young baller who's super
Mm-hmm.
keen and wants to work hard that would selfishly just close the doors and keep the secret. But you had
Yeah.
some people in your
Yeah.
life who were unselfish and saw something bigger and didn't put their ego in the way and said, hey, let's
Yeah.
find a way for you to go somewhere else. I think that's
Yeah.
so great. What a great part of your story. And I think that
Mm-hmm.
we can take a lot away from that. When you were in all that, when did you know and why was basketball the thing that separated for you? You already talked about being little and stuff like
Yeah.
that, but just sort of
Yeah.
that camaraderie. But why did basketball separate for you from other sports when you were younger?
That's a great question. I've thought about it a lot in my life because it's
Hmm.
been an integral part of my life and my whole life. I mean, do other things with a lot of basketball. I don't know. I was a downhill skier to start in Princeton,
Oh,
Apex, yeah, a competitive. And
yeah,
then
my
I was
wife
a
too. She's
and then
from
a competitive
Saskatchewan, so there
swimmer.
wasn't a lot of skiing in Saskatchewan, but they
I
spent
was
a
like,
lot of
wow.
time on the van to Calgary. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, we
Yeah.
are. And then I was a swimmer, and I mean in a small. And then I did track, and then I did volleyball, and I did basketball. And in a small town, if you're a good athlete, you are a good athlete. You're a good athlete in all those sports. And
Sure.
so I was a good athlete, and it's a small town, so I mean,
Yeah.
literally one of the best. I wasn't the only. There were some good athletes,
Yeah.
but and I think I loved all those individual sports. But for me, when it came time to play basketball, and I liked volleyball too, I played that. Well, I would have played right to grade 12, but I had a boot on my foot from a little stress fracture from basketball. But anyway, so I just loved team sports, and I think I liked the strategy of basketball, and I was quite an aggressive, quick, strong little player, and so that it was a factor on the floor. You could make a
Sure.
difference. Whereas volleyball, not as much, I mean, individual sport, maybe yes, but yeah, and I just gravitate towards that. But I also think I have to give credit to, one of my young early coaches, Arnie Carlson, who's the guy from New West, and he just made it fun. He just really made it fun for us, and we traveled. I mean, went to Williams Lake. When I was young, like that was a big roadie.
Hmm.
Jeremias, Penticton. I don't think we got to Kelowna, but so it was just fun to play in those tournaments. And I remember our senior boys were very good, and I believe they hosted the single A's one year, and our gym was packed in Princeton. I remember sitting on the bleachers with my legs hanging over and thinking, I'm going to be playing in the BCs. I'm going to do this. Yeah.
Hmm.
And I was probably grade 7 or 8. So,
Did,
just those life experiences.
did Salmon Arm have like the stage at the end at one point?
Salmon Arm
Yeah,
did,
yeah,
yeah, in
yeah,
the
that's
old
right.
high school.
That's what
Yeah.
I thought.
Yeah, they
Okay.
did.
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 Having
And that
flashbacks.
was fun.
I remember the U19 we went up there because Jordy was on the
Ah,
team, and so we went up there and
right.
did a couple games. So that was fun. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
Um,
that was huge.
and some cool things you touched on just playing in a smaller community. One, just
Mm-hmm.
the opportunity to be sort of elite with every sport in your neighborhood, but
Yeah.
also small communities are great too. They tend to get behind things quicker and
Absolutely. Yeah.
find a way to support things quicker than maybe in a bigger city where people think they're too busy or too good to do things. So that
Yeah.
experience, how
Yeah.
was that? And when did you know that basketball was going to be something maybe you wanted to pursue more than? And when did you kind
Yeah.
of look around and go, all right, like
Yeah.
I really belong
I'm
here.
on it. I'm on
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, in grade 9, or grade 10, sorry, grade 10, I asked my parents if I could move, and they said, no, you are not going anywhere. So I sort of started thinking about it. My two teachers talked to me in maybe grade 9, into grade 9, started grade 10. I played senior in grade 10, I guess. I think I might have played some games in 9. I can't, it's a long time ago, Aaron.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I think I kind of wanted to go in grade 10, and my parents said no, but I pestered them for the entire year. If nothing, I'm relentless. So they finally said yes. And that's when I left. And I didn't, this is, no one believes me when I say this, but I did not know you could play university basketball until I went to Salmon Arm. I didn't
Oh,
know about it. I was in
okay.
Princeton. We didn't
Yeah.
know. We'd had one guy that had went to Wenatchee Valley Community College, I think. And so I sort of knew about that, but I didn't really know because you're in a small town. And I mean, I wore cutoff jeans with studs on them. I mean, I was not cool.
Yeah.
Well, it's cool in a small town, but So I went to a basketball camp in Nelson that was run by Eastern Washington State College at that
Nice.
Eastern Washington University at the time in Nelson. Yep, took the bus up, took the bus home, and I just remember getting there, and there were a couple of girls from Washington and other girls from all over the province. I kind of befriended someone from Cranbrook, and I was like, holy! And I won the 1-on-1. I'm looking around, going, I think I'm all right. Like I'm just not. Just okay in a small town. And then in in Salmon Arm, we won back-to-back provincial championships. And I just think I just developed this love of it. And my high school coach was like, well, you can play at the next level. And well, I don't think we said it like that back then. You can play at university,
Yeah.
So yeah, that's when I started. And then I think I knew I wanted to coach pretty early. Yeah,
Really?
But I think so. Well, I did a lot of camps. At Oregon, I stayed down there for the entire summer, and I just worked basketball camps to make money. So you'd stay an extra $100 if you stayed in the dorm with the kids. I'm like, yes. Extra, I forget how much, maybe another 100 or something if you got up for every early bird session. Yes, and then you got paid. So it was just like you'd get Sunday off, and then well, not off Saturday off. Sunday they'd check in again. So I did it all summer. Yeah, knew I'd want to coach.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Just to the listeners, hear how quickly she just flew by the back-to-back championship there. It's just like, just swept that one under the rug quickly. But also, at that age, regardless if it's single A, 3A, 4A, getting success, seeing what big games, being in those games.
Yeah.
You talked about not knowing that post-secondary existed. So how the heck did it happen for you?
Well, I did know by the time I got to Salmon Arm, I knew. My high school coach, and so my high school coach actually was just. I mean, it's not like it was now because I graduated high school in 1977, so some listeners won't be born. But and so at the BCs when I was born. Yeah, there you go. And so when the BCs were on, I think the first year they were at JO at John Oliver.
Okay.
Norm Vickery, who's a rather famous coach, he came to watch, and he contacted me. And then I heard from Barb Robertson at SFU, and I think I might have got a note from UBC. But it wasn't like recruiting now.
Sure.
And then Norm Vickery would call me, and I was shy, and he was wonderful. I enjoyed playing for him, but he's strange. And he would just be so quiet on the phone. And I'd be like, what? Why are you phoning me?
Like, I'm the kid here. Like, I'm the awkward teen. Like,
yes,
you're supposed to carry the conversation.
Yeah. So he recruited me, and I mean, unlike kids today, I went sight unseen, never made a trip to Laurentian. I liked what he said. They were a good team. He had some national team athletes. Yeah. And I arrived for my frosh week, almost had a heart attack about it was like in Northern Ontario. But I mean, I went for the basketball. So, and then he left after 2 years. He retired, moved on. And so I went down to Oregon because Bev Smith was there. And they'd recruited me out of high school too, but at that time,
wondering the transition. Why? Okay, so that's why.
Yeah, that's why. Yeah, he left. Had Norm stayed, maybe I would have stayed. But Bev was talking to me, and she was at Oregon, and we kind of wanted to play again together. We played in high school, and we won back-to-back university championships in Canada. I mean, I guess I could have gotten 4 or 5. I don't know. It was wasn't important. It was important to the team and winning, but not more. So yeah, I thought it was a great experience. I mean, not very many players are doing that, but now I see more youth sport players are doing that.
Right.
So
there's a lot this year. Yeah.
It's good for me.
Do you think about the fact that experience with Coach and those phone conversations, did you think about that when it was your opportunity and how awkward that was for you? And nowadays you can talk and just, text a kid, but I still believe in this, right? I think in or at least a phone call, something that is more of a real conversation. Did you take those mental notes? And then when it was your turn? Yeah.
Oh yeah. And I loved recruiting. I loved recruiting. I love kids, and I love conversations with them. You can learn so much. And so, I didn't have any struggle with being on the phone with kids at all. Hi there. How are you?
This is Allison.
Oh, hi there. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Your dad's
Eli.
asked me some good questions.
He's the side guest. Sorry, you guys talk.
Are you playing any sports right now?
A really good basketball player and coach. Yeah.
What do you play?
Well, I go to parkour, I play basketball, and I think I'm going to soccer.
What basketball do you play for?
Cool.
RBL.
Oh, you're an RBL. Good
Yeah.
for you.
Can
That's
you
cool.
can you say good night?
Good night.
Good night.
Night, buddy.
Nice to meet you.
Love
Nice
ya.
to meet you. Nice to meet you too.
Okay.
Love ya.
Love you too.
Have a good sleep. Okay. Be good to mom. Have a good week. Okay. I'll see you in the morning. Okay. Love you.
Cuckoo.
Okay. Bye. This is why
Too
I
cute.
pay someone to edit the podcast. Okay. Good night.
I know,
Yes.
Dad, put the headphones on there.
Time to
so
go.
then it will just repeat it in put in.
Good night. Love ya.
No, do it.
On your way.
Just put this there.
Oh,
Put the headphones
love
on
ya.
the microphone.
I got to keep talking to Allison.
I know, but just put the headphones
I'll see you in the morning. It won't be infinite.
It will.
With this, you mean?
No, like push it on here.
No.
It's an Allison same.
Oh, yeah. I see. Infinite. I got you. You're
It's a
too
loop.
smart for your own kid.
It's
Yeah.
a loop. How old is he?
He's 7. He'll be 8 in November.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
cool.
He's a busy little guy.
You're busy.
Yeah.
Mm.
Sorry, keep going where you were
That's
there.
okay.
Yeah. He
Yeah.
likes to
Mhm.
make a guest appearance when he knows I'm doing it. He likes to sneak in because
Oh, that's
we've
cute.
been listening to it a couple of times. I like to re-listen after it comes out, and he'll hear his
Oh, neat.
voice, or I'll be like, "Hey, Eli, you're about to come on," and he's like in the car, like, "What?" Yeah. Mhm.
I don't actually know where we were. Where were we?
We were chatting about sort of
Yeah.
just recruiting and you
Oh,
taking
yeah.
in all
Yes.
that and
Yeah.
sort of
Yeah. And I enjoyed recruiting. I think it was you have to enjoy it and you have to believe that you have a great place for kids to play. And I've always believed in myself as a coach, and always believed that SFU was a great academic institution, great place to be. Let's do something special. Same at Oregon. I mean, it just wasn't that hard. Even when I was talking to national team athletes, I didn't find it difficult. Like, you get to represent Canada, and I'm a caring, driven, hardworking coach with a great staff. Like, what's not to love, So
Sure.
I think as long as you feel that way, I think it's not hard. I think it's harder now, the
Mhm.
recruiting, just because I think there's more people working at it than when I was doing it. I think I outworked a lot of people.
Right.
But now I think it's much more difficult, and there's so many more opportunities.
Yeah. Do you think, what are the other reasons that make it so challenging? Do you think it's the way kids, like, is it like, everyone thinks they deserve a full ride or playing time, and there's so much movement now? Like, what are some other factors that you think would make it challenging for a coach, other than their budget, especially in Canada?
Yeah. I was just saying, Canada, I think budget is a big concern.
Mhm.
I mean, our biggest strength up here, and I always considered Simon Fraser up here, even though we didn't play up here. Well,
Sure.
for a few years through Bruce's time they did, but I think our big thing is our academics, our places where the schools are. Some of the cities are amazing, and even the small towns are amazing. So you get a great university experience, and the number of people that are actually going to play professionally and play even overseas, and that is very small, slim, and it's a short window. So I think getting a great education. We have some unbelievable coaches up here, but the draw of the U.S. is real, and I get it. I mean, it's bigger. And I guess with NIL money now, I don't know how much the Canadians can get. I haven't figured all that out yet, but there's that. And then the movement is a bit, this is just my personal opinion.
Yeah.
I went from Laurentian, where I had some good friends, kept in touch with a few, down to Oregon, where I probably had more friends, because that's where I finished. I was a bit older, and I coached there for a year. But, when you transfer go to 3 or 4 schools, where's your community? I mean, that's the thing to me. But I understand when kids have to transfer, it can be coaching problems, player problems, playing time. There's reasons. I don't begrudge anyone. But the 3 and 4 times is concerning, because I just feel like you're lacking community. I mean, I go down, I think not last summer, summer before, we had got all our Oregon women together. One of the grandmas brought her daughter and baby, and we all sitting outside telling stories. There was about 9 of us. And I thought, like, if you change that many schools, and a Hall of Fame induction, like we got inducted in the Hall of Fame at Laurentian, and I don't know, I worry that that's being lost, but there's other great benefits for sure.
I agree, because really, you think about the great wins, the tough losses, the successes, whatever, it's the memories, right? It's the connections, it's the people, it's the pictures behind you over your shoulders that is what means so much, right? And I think you bring such a good point there.
Yeah, for sure.
Is it so? Transferring to the States at this time, did you notice a big difference? Was it Was it a higher level? Was it more challenging? Did you feel like you fit in? And is it true you went to the first women's NCAA tournament? Is that true?
Right. That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. And so
Love it.
we were AIAW, the women's league,
Okay.
my first year, and then we were NC2A my second
Okay.
year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, yeah,
And then you'd
it was
only
kind
had
of a
2 years
deal.
because it was transferring for,
Right.
yeah, right. Okay.
Yeah. I only
Yep.
got 2 years. Yeah.
And so the AAW counted as a year of eligibility.
Yes, it
Yeah.
did. Yeah. Because
Okay.
they were still the governing body.
Right.
The NC2A didn't swallow them up until later, amalgamate them or whatever. Yeah. But yeah,
You
so
said
it
it
was,
correctly. Yeah.
yeah, it was great. You know, Bev was there. I played with Allison Lang. She's from Saskatoon. She was on the national team. I played with her. We had really great teams. We made the final 8 one year. Yeah, it was just, but it's different. I mean, it was certainly not as big. Matt Court hosted the Final Four. We didn't get to play in it, so that was sort of a not so good thing. But I'm sort of not someone that focuses on like the negative things that have happened in my life. I'm pretty much like enjoy the high moments. So there were so many there that you know, the rivalry with Oregon State was huge. With UW was huge, and I still have a hard time even thinking that that Oregon will always be it. Yeah,
and how
it
fun was that? Those rivalries and
was
just
fun.
that,
Yeah, it was really
that
good.
American,
Yeah.
like, oh,
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. You have your rivals, and they're real, and they're, I mean, you know, you kind of joke about it. People say to me, "Oh, did you go to Oregon State?" I'm like, "Oh, for goodness sakes, no. I went to Oregon. I graduated from Oregon. Don't say Oregon State." But I mean, I think the coach there, he does a great job. Scott Ruick, he's really good. But yeah, so I don't know. I actually thought our Laurentian team, when we had Sylvia Sweeney, who was MVP of the World Championships that year that we won, I think we could have competed in the top 10, 12 teams in the NC2A at that time, because Sylvia was a difference maker, but we were good. We were really good. And then we had 2 guards that had played on the junior national team in Canada, and we had Chris Curtelli, who was a national team. I mean, we're really good. And we kind of walked through the Ontario League and nationals. Really, we were that good. But Norm Vickery was on another level at that time. I mean, we lifted hard. We were doing cleans and squats, and a lot of teams weren't at that time. He conditioned us very hard, and so we were fitter, stronger than every team we played, and that really influenced my thinking both at every level. Because to me, if you're not the fittest, strongest, those are things you can control. And then maybe the smartest, are you prepared? Those are things you control. You can't always control your talent level. And maybe that's also because I wasn't all that talented as a player. You know, I didn't have a lot of talent. I was quick and strong. But yeah, so I mean, maybe all that influenced me a little bit. But it was, I think our Laurentian teams at that time could have competed. But, you know, I got to play with Sylvia Sweeney, who was MVP of the World Championships, and Bev Smith, who was an all-world team. I've played with great players, and they influenced my thinking as much, if not more, than coaches.
Yeah, I was going to say, you mentioned Bev a few times. Talk about the impact of her. I mean, like, talk about a resume, but just you mentioned sort of, Bev was down there, so Bev was down there, so I decided, I mean, sounds like there was there's a big pull for you and a good connection there.
For sure. I don't know why I got a bug in front of me. Well, I think, you know, it was serendipitous. I think that I moved to Salmon Arm, and Bev was in grade 10. I was grade 11. And then she played junior. You weren't allowed to play up at that time. Then she came up with us for some tournaments, and we would train together. And I had a buddy, and she had a buddy. And so we met every morning in the gym. I remember my coach, I had pleurisy, like it's sort of your lung inflammation. And my coach saw me in the gym, and he drove me home and said, "You do not come to the gym." I'm like, "I don't miss the gym, and I don't ever miss." He goes, "You're missing." And I was like, so we would just meet at the gym. We played one-on-one full court. We'd do our lifting together. So I think that just we were able to sort of bring each other up. And I think that's a really big deal for a young woman, because sometimes not as many maybe girls want to go in the gym and work on their game. It's just it's not as important to them, but it's important when they compete in that, but maybe they aren't looking at a higher level. You know? But lots are more now. And I mean, my high school teammates were great. They trained hard, and we'd often have 5 or 6 in the morning shooting, working on their game. So yeah, that was Bev and I. And then she was in my wedding party, and then we played at Oregon together. And when I was playing in Germany, I visited her while she was playing in Italy. And yeah, we always stay with her on our drive down into Palm Desert. We stay with her in Eugene, and yeah, just a great friend, and someone that I think, you know, we had similar drive and love of the game and training, and we lifted each other up.
I love that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So things wrap up at Oregon. Do you done school? Do you move on playing right away? Like, what's the next phase for you before coaching
Yeah.
really comes around for you? Yeah. Oh, big sigh. Here we go.
Yeah. Well, it was hard because I
Mhm.
was I want to say I wanted to play more, but I was like knew I wasn't that great, and I didn't know really what was going to happen. And so Bev Bland, who played at SFU and on our 76th Olympic team, she was the 10th leading scorer at the Olympics and was also in my wedding party, the two Bevs, Bev Smith and Bev Bland. And she had come down to Oregon as a coach. She had been at QE High School and at Simon Fraser, and she came down as an assistant to Oregon. And then she took the Portland State job, and she said, why don't you come up there and be an assistant coach for me at Portland State? Like you're done school. And I was like, oh, it was like an honorarium. I'm like, how am I going to make money? What am I going to do?
Yeah.
Anyway, I thought, well, okay. I said, yeah, I definitely. So we go up there, and she did a great job there, but then just stayed a year. There were some extenuating circumstances. Anyway, so it was really great. I enjoyed coaching, and I enjoyed coaching with her, and I loved the game planning and the prep, and well, we watched VHSs back then. But and then my university coach from Oregon, Elwin Heine, he said, "Hey, there's a German team looking for a point guard." I was like, "A small point guard, like maybe?" And he goes, "Yeah." So it was second division.
Yeah.
I went over, loved it. We ended up winning to move up to first division. I coached two little girls teams, one 12 under 12, and they could only play in a boys league. We lost every game, but it was a learning experience. And then another team. So I was in the gym all day, every day, training, coaching. And I went, oh, this is it. Like I found, if I play professionally, great, but it's not. And then I tore my ankle, had to have surgery, and I kind of finished the season. My mom came over. We traveled for about 2.5 weeks. And then I decided I wanted to get on with coaching and teaching. And yeah, so came back, got a job in Revelstoke, 2 years coached there. And then Seaquam, Mowat, and then SFU. So I love teaching and coaching, but SFU called.
Yeah. And so you've gained all this experience through playing, and then you get back in Revelstoke. God bless Revelstoke, but you're back in a smaller community, still in an era where you can't hop on Google and go to YouTube videos, or maybe it's phone. How are you developing your Pro D as a coach? What are you doing to continue and sharpen your craft and your skill, so that when SFU does come ready, you can interview well and be ready to go, and also have some good experiences as a coach before that?
Okay, seriously, must be doing some research somewhere there. But that's a really great question, because first of all, I had a basketball camp there for 2 summers with Bev Bland, who was an Olympian, and Bev Smith and me. I think I charged $20 for the week. Anyway, so we did basketball camp. So like Bev was coaching, and Bev Smith was playing in Italy. So I'm learning from them. They're doing stuff. Then Bev Smith used to get me all the VHSs of the women's national team, like not all, but almost everyone. And I would watch them. I watched national team when she started playing, and she would just say, do you want me to get you some tapes? I'm like, yeah, of course I want to, I vicariously was living through her, wishing I could play at that level. But so yeah, I did a lot of watching VHS of our Canadian national team when Don McRae was coaching them, when Bev was playing through the 80s. And then I think
so what are you watching when you're watching that? Sorry to cut you off.
No, that's okay.
Are you watching the size of the players? Are you watching the offensive action? Are you watching the spacing on defense? What is it like? What does your notepad say?
At that time, I think that I was watching for what does this level of play look like? Like how can I help players get to this level of play if they want? I'm all about only if you want. You just do the game how you want. So I think I was watching that. I think some tactical stuff was there too. I was kind of like, oh, that's a little different. Like not necessarily our Canadian team, because Don McRae ran some flex, and it was good for our team at that time, but more from the European teams. And even defensively, what were teams doing? It was certainly different than it is now, no 3-point line till later. But so I think I was kind of watching a little bit of everything. And I'm fairly defensive minded, but I like X's and O's, but I like it to be a lot of player movement, ball movement. I'm not a massive dribble drive fan. Like everybody loves it, and that's fine. I don't hate it. I actually saw Vance Wahlberg teach it. I saw him in two-hour sessions, and when he taught it, and Mike and I went to see him in Palm Springs, I think, and I was like, wow, I like it. This is good, but you have to have like 3 or 4 kids that can put the ball on the floor. Everybody's got to be a good decision maker. And I just question how many teams actually have that, but that's me. So yeah, that would be. And so I sort of started seeing some things in Europe. And then when I went and played in Germany, I learned some stuff there. But when I got back, it was more difficult to keep up. So I started to go to clinics, went to the ones in Vegas, the ones in Portland, the Nike, Beaverton, those ones. So Mike and I started dating Mike the summer before I went to, we met at the Kits Beach tournament.
Yeah, you
Someone
did.
introduced us. Yeah, I was playing on a team, and with Bev Bland, he was playing on a team, and we all went out for dinner. And then he took me to a basketball game on our first date. Provincial team was playing at STM. At STM.
No
yes.
way.
Yes, way. And it was Craig Peterson was playing. I remember that because Mike knew him. Yeah. So it must have been U19. Yeah. Sure. And then I left for Revelstoke the next day. So it was a long distance romance. Yeah, it was pretty funny. So then I think that Mike and I started to do clinics together, and he's super knowledgeable and then doing clinics with some locals. I remember Bob Corbett used to have a clinic at college, and we'd all come in, and Mark Simpson would do something and someone else would speak. And I remember I would tag along with Mike. I think only maybe Kate McLeod came with Tom Elwood and me, so 2 women. Then one time they said to me, "Okay, Allison, it's your hour, your half hour." I'm like, "What?" So that was kind of fun, puts pressure. And then I went to the very first Coaching You Live in Vegas. And I was the only woman there. 250 some odd coaches. Wow. Just no one was going at that time. And I've done. And then I mean, now you can get online and find a lot, but then we did it sort of more face to face.
Awesome. So obviously you felt confident to apply at SFU. Did you truly feel like you were ready for that level? And talk. And so how did that job come around? Like, did you just find out? Is it, I find sometimes in Canada, it's weird. Like a job will come open and then it's just kind of like open it up and it's resumes on the floor, which is fine. But I'm also like, aren't there people out there that you can just say, "Hello, so-and-so, we really think you'd be a strong candidate for this job. Is it something that interests you?" As opposed to just being passive and waiting to see if that person, or maybe they weren't interested. Well, maybe they were waiting for your call. Anyways, that's my side rant. I find it interesting.
I'll address that first, because I think that is a really great side rant. You when you see in big NCAA schools, and it's not the only way to do things, but I'm just saying, it's a business, right? There's big money, and so they lose a coach, and they have a coach in 5 days because they have a short list, a long list with a short list of who they want to go after, and they go after them. And that's recruiting. I remember a coach coming up to me early on in my career at SFU. I was out at a game at New West. I can always remember where I was, New West Secondary, the old gym. And the coach came up to me and said, "What are you doing here? Recruiting?" I'm like, "Is that a bad thing or a good thing? Because you're making it sound like a bad thing." He's like, was kind of nasty to me. And I was like, okay, whatever. I am here recruiting, and I am going to get some of these girls to SFU. So and that I remember it was Heidi Hansen in that group that I was recruiting. And so it's a funny thing, but I think that we should go after coaches. And I will say a good thing. I had several ADs over the last, I'd say 5 years, call me about players in Canada, coaches in Canada, and they're actually trying to tell them to apply. So that's a new thing, I think, and I really like that idea. I think we should go after people. SFU came about, it was Bev Bland, who was in my wedding party, was coaching there. Greg Sharp took, Bev had her second baby, took a leave. Greg Sharp, who was her assistant, took over. And then Bev said it's going to be opened up and would love to see you apply. And then Mike, my husband, said, "You should do it. You should do it." And I was like, "Well, I like high school coaching. I like what I'm doing." "Oh, no. Okay, well, I'll apply." And I think a couple things were in my favor. One was Lauren Davies was the AD, and he had done his master's at Oregon. So he was all about the Ducks. Yeah. So half my question, I got interviewed twice. Half my questions in the first interview were about my time at Oregon. I was like, but yeah, and I also, I'm a pretty good preparer, so I had a lot of things prepared about. I could ask Mike and Bev, and people told me about, what SFU is like, and so I interviewed twice, and I got that. And I don't know, I was just like, I can do it. But I stumbled, of course, but I think you have to believe in yourself.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely, you
Yeah.
do. And then so then you find out you get the job. What sort of, okay, it's your program now. This isn't high school
Mhm.
where it's like whoever's around kind of thing, right? In the catchment area.
Yeah.
Everything that you've learned, this things that you've stacked up, the VHS tapes, everything that you've got,
Mhm.
what's the focus? Like, is it recruiting? Is it getting the best people? Is it, are you thinking 3-year
Yes,
plan,
yes.
4-year plan? Yeah, yeah, yes, yes, yes.
Yes, yes, and yes.
Like, is it, do you
Yeah.
give yourself compassion to think like, okay, this is going to take a few years or
No.
no, no. Okay.
No,
Yeah.
no, not
Well, mhm,
really.
mhm.
But part of it was
Which is why the
naivety.
record would say 363 wins and 79 losses, ladies and gentlemen. That's
Yeah,
why. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah. Because part of it was just being naive, to be honest, or not like being
Mm,
cocky, just being naive
yeah.
and going, I don't know the level of play. I've been in high school for 4 years. I know the level of play at Oregon and but I don't know the level of play at SFU and the league and that. So I didn't know. And then I immediately started recruiting, but I was coaching the provincial team that summer. So basketball BC said to me, you cannot talk to any of the kids on this provincial team while you're coaching them, which
Wow.
would make sense at that
Sure.
time, right? The
Yep.
recruiting. And
Yep.
you can't wear SFU stuff anywhere. You can't. Okay. So I was just like, but prior to, so I had Bev Bland had been recruiting some of the athletes that I ended up recruiting. So the minute that a lot of them played in the provincial team for me that summer,
Hmm,
we
hmm.
won Western Canada's at that time. Rich Goulet was doing the guys team, Putzi, I think. I know those guys are they're I can't remember. Anyway,
Yep.
they're two good teams, and the players all got along. And yeah, so at the end of the day, the day that I stopped coaching them, the next day I was calling everybody, and they're all like, "We had so much fun." I said, "Let's bring it all here. Let's come
Yeah.
together. Let's see how many of you we can get." And I think we got 6 or 7 off that provincial team. So
Wow.
it was like, I mean, I had the provincial team job as a high school coach. I wasn't entertaining the SFU job at the time,
Right.
but it worked out well. But as I said, there were a couple of kids there I didn't recruit because I knew it wouldn't work, but had I tried, they wouldn't have come to play for me. They weren't coming to play for me. So
Hmm.
I think, it also had to work out that they liked me. They wanted to be coached by me. SFU had what they wanted. So yeah, and I was lucky to get it like a Michelle Hendry, Andrea
Hmm.
Schneider. I mean, at that time, I think she was going to go to Mount Royal because it
Hmm.
was closer to home in Invermere. And I'm like, no, you're not. That's ridiculous. Like, you're coming here. And yeah, just it was fun. Yeah, it was fun. And I think I was young and sort of clueless, like
Hmm.
in a good way, like just like, let's go. And I remember the very first ranking came out, they faxed it to you back in the day. So we
Hmm.
got this fax and it had us 7th out of, I don't know, 8 teams or something.
Okay.
So I blew it up and I
Yeah.
put it on the back of our team room door. And I
Love
said, I
it.
don't know about you, but I've never been 7th at anything. We're not going to
Oh,
be 7th. I don't know what we're going to be, but we're not going to be 7th.
oh, I
And
love
we
it.
made the conference final and yeah, that was so, and they believed it, right? They were young, and then I have to give credit. I had Michelle Michelle Booker
Hmm.
back, great leader, great
Hey.
person. Yeah, I know you
Yeah.
coach T.
Yeah.
Great leader, great person, great student, great senior. I
Yeah.
had Denise Logan, men's now back. She's a physiotherapist. Her daughter played some volleyball and stuff. Her son played some national team volleyball. And then Sarah Hove, who was
Hmm.
like an all conference player. So those 3 seniors were back and they were like the pillars of that program
Hmm.
because the young players, they taught them and they were just great people. So it
Yeah.
kind of started there. Yeah. And then I recruited good people and good
Yeah.
players.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and we could talk for 40 minutes about your experience with SFU, but let's
Mhm.
just think about, that whole time and reflect back. Like all the success, so much fun. As you talked about, you're naive. Now,
Mhm.
in your more veteran, quote unquote, years,
Yeah.
what are you doing to not keep your guard down? Are you a paranoid
Mhm.
person? Like, what's the person in the conference doing? Like, what are they doing? Are you just like, I'm going to keep learning and growing?
Yeah.
I'm going to keep what's working, but tweak these things so that you're kind of staying current. And then,
Mhm.
as I'm feeling, being from turning 47 in a couple weeks, like, how do you stay connected? Like, yes, the
Yeah.
girls love you, they follow you, you've recruited them, but it's
Mhm.
with every year,
Mhm.
they're the same age, so
Absolutely.
all those things. And how,
Yeah.
as a coach, were you able to maintain all that?
Yeah, I think it still is about relationships. So that's how you maintain it because you listen, you learn, you empower, you give them some autonomy. You try to make help every player be better. It's not about one or two players. And though we had All-Americans and we had national team players, I never thought that that was the only reason we won. I think a lot of times it's the players that didn't get those accolades that was why we were so good. I think I had a great eye, and I can say I because I really never had full-time assistants, but and some of my assistants though, we had a great eye for potential and who can develop. Like, I mean, Andrew Schneider did not get highly recruited. I'm like, how could, and Mike saw her first. He saw her at a tryout in the Kootenays. He was up there doing something for Basketball BC, and he goes, oh my gosh, you got to see this kid. She's just tough and athletic. And so I'm like, well, yeah. And then just, I mean, Michelle Hendry was an obvious one, but there were a lot through my time, and we got a lot out of small communities. That was for sure. But
you did you?
Yeah, we did. Yeah, it's not as much anymore. Yeah, I'm kind of a bit sad about that. But yeah, my first recruiting class, I think we had Kamloops, Salmon Arm, Terrace, Invermere. Heidi was a Hope, Tracy, and Heidi was New West. So, I mean, only really one Lower Mainland. And that's kind of the makeup of the provincial teams back then. I think that's switched a little bit. I mean, Kelowna is still strong. Prince George has some kids, but it's pockets. Whereas I think before, you had multi-sport athletes, so you had the best athletes played basketball. Yeah, but yeah, so that was kind of what turned it around. I mean, I really had a great first recruiting class, and then I used to keep a chart. I had 10 years, so I had all my team, and then who was going to be there next year and the year after, and then I put kids from grade 9, even earlier, sometimes who I really liked, and then if they didn't work, like if they didn't grow and I didn't continue to love them, they would come off and other kids would come on. So I kind of try to plan out a long and really get to know the kids. I have a funny story. I made a home visit once, and I walked in, and I did home visits all the time. I don't know how much they do them anymore, if you have to, but, and I wanted to, because it's important. And I wanted to see a bunch of things, but the biggest one is I wanted to see how they interacted with their parents, because I interact a certain way with my parents, and that was important to me. And then I thought, well, if they interact well with their parents, they'll probably interact well with our coaching staff. So I made a home visit, very good player. And I walked in, and her mom and dad were super nice and got me a cup of tea and took me into the living room. And she was down on a kind of shaded lounge at the far, it was quite a long living room. She was down there, kind of legs up. And they came and sat by me, and they said, okay, well, go ahead, you can start. And I said, well, I'm not going to start until, oh, she's listening. I was like, oh. I said, no, I said, I'm not presenting to you two. This is, and then she kind of came over and looked somewhat disinterested. And I wrapped it up. In a minute, and I just said, this clearly is not going to work. And I made another home visit with a kid who her parents got her to go up and I walked out. Yeah, I said, it's not going to work. Not going to work. And I mean, she was good, but I'm not taking
at what cost, right?
And it didn't look like she wanted me or I wanted her.
Sure.
So it was fine. Don't waste anybody's time. Off our merry ways. Yeah. But I made another one where, I can say who it is, but it was Tina Bell, and who coached the Fox girls to a championship with Mike Gartner. And I walked in, and her mom and dad are so great in Kamloops, and they sent her to get the tea for me. She brought it out with some cookies, I think. And then her dad says about, 20 minutes in, well, I'm going to a Blazers game with Tony, with his son. Out he leaves. And I thought, oh, I kind of like this. It's up to her. And her mom, Joanne, so nice. So they sat and talked, and she was so polite, and she said bye to her dad. And I'm like, okay, I don't, and Tina will admit she wasn't the world's greatest athlete, but super smart, great passer, was a great person and a great player on your team. But I didn't know for sure I wanted her until, I knew, I was recruiting her, but at that moment I'm like, I have to have her. So,
awesome.
Yeah, you can really tell a lot with their families.
If you think you were in 2024 recruiting, how would you go about it? Have you thought about that?
Yeah, I have. I'd still make home visits. Yeah, I think so. I think it's tougher. I think the kids, there's a lot more like, I don't know. I think kids are kind of the same. I still think they want to be where they're wanted. I think they want to be where they're cared about. I think they want to be where they're pushed. I think they want to be treated, well, but still pushed. Yeah. So I'm not sure it was all that different. There's the other things, but I think I'd still sell the things that I think are important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. So let's get into a little bit of just national team, and I don't want to overlook
Yeah.
Oregon. You know, you go down and,
Oh,
and do Oregon,
no,
but
you
I
can
think,
overlook it. It's okay.
but I think, being a Canadian-based
Yeah,
podcast and all the time that
yeah.
you put in effort and energy, you touched on it a little bit when we first started chatting and stuff. But how did you know, or how did that come about? And knowing that the time, energy, and effort, and sort of where, I mean, I love where we're at now on both sides of the ball, right? Men's and women's, and the women's have been killing it for way longer. But just in terms of how they travel, what they, all
Yeah,
those things, and knowing that
yeah.
you're going to have interesting flights and interesting vans and interesting games on the road and all that. So,
Yeah.
how did it all come about, and why did you make that next step? Did someone come see you about it, or was it just something inside of you that you wanted?
No, I didn't. It was not a goal of mine. Wasn't to coach the national team. No. And I'm not a huge goal setter anyway. I just put my head down, work hard, and if good things come your way, I think they will. And not like I won't put myself out there, like apply for a job. I would do that, but it's not like I'm out there going, this, I have to do this. That's just not who I am. But yeah, so Bev Smith was coaching the national team. And she said, we really need someone good at junior. You're so good with the fundamentals. You're so good with the kids, Al. Why don't you apply for the junior program? I'm like, okay. I thought I would do that. That sounds like kind of my deal. I like the development. I like the kids. I enjoy travel. I enjoy time with them. So I apply, and Tom Kendall, who was at Winnipeg when they won several national championships on the women's side, he applied and he got it. He's more experienced. I totally understand. And then, but I mean, I was a little bit like, oh, didn't get it, like stupid. But then when I realized, and then they called and said, we would like you to assist him. And I said, well, would he like me to assist him? Because I've been the head coach before. Oh, yeah. So he comes, I think he was out here. So we met anyway, and he was fine. He's like, yeah, I mean, I didn't pick you, but I think it'll work out. And I was like, oh, okay, we'll see how this goes. Anyway, that was my first foray into it. We trained in Winnipeg. I mean, there was just the biggest mosquitoes. I'd go out for a run and I'd be like, oh my gosh. And Dory Johnson from Lethbridge was an assistant. So we kind of clicked and connected. And so that was my first foray into it. And I didn't actually think I'd do it again. I was like, it was okay, not great. And I think part of it is I'm maybe not the greatest assistant. I mean, I have to be honest. I think that's probably not I think I'd be better now, but I was young. I thought I knew a lot, and I was pretty opinionated. So Tom and I were fine. I mean, he didn't actually listen a lot, which that's fine as a head coach. He has to do what he has to do. But, I thought he should listen more, and that was just youth. And so that also helped me when I became a head coach, like listen to your assistants, give stuff to Mike, give stuff to Lisa, they're good coaches. So then this job came up with a junior, well, it was a youth national team going to Russia.
Okay.
And Bev begged me again, and I was like, okay, I'll apply. And I got it. And we went to Russia.
So you just couldn't say no to Bev, basically, is what it came down to.
Probably.
That's why,
that was part of it. Yeah,
or else we wouldn't have had you coaching so long. Yeah.
No, I did want to get involved as a head coach, and so I did that, and it was just awesome. Christine Stapleton was one of my assistants, was my assistant. We went to Russia, World Youth Games, like 80,000 people at the opening ceremonies. Cool. Flag raising in Moscow, and that kind of hooked me. I was like, okay, I think I can see this. I care about Canada. I want the game to be better. I had Shona Thorburn in that team. I mean, there was a lot of really good players. They were 15 years old, and we were over there for about 3 weeks. It was tough.
Wow, that's young.
Yeah. And then I was an assistant with Bev. I was an apprentice coach with the national team when in Cuba. I can't remember, maybe 2 trips, and then. When Bev retired, Leslie Delsin, who was the CEO at the time, or our CEO, she called me and said, are you interested in this moving up? And I said, absolutely, I would love to do it. And so then I interviewed, I think 2 times for that one too. And I think at that point, between doing junior, working with Bev, watching all the tape, I felt like I had a good vision for Canada basketball. I mean, a lot of people kind of don't know all the things I did, but I mean, I was very into international basketball because of Bev.
Yeah.
Because of Bev playing, yeah. And not just Bev, Sylvia Sweeney I played with, and she played. And I mean, lots of players, Allison Lang, and players I played with were all playing internationally and overseas. And so.
And what was your personal vision? Like, did you, other than thinking it could be better, like what was your personal vision for it? Yeah.
Well, I mean, So honestly, Aaron, the first trip I did with the national team, we had, I think it was 8 days training and a 10-day trip to Spain, I think. I can't remember. And I remember I wrote up my report after, and I said, this is recreational elite basketball. That's all it is. You can't train 8 days and go play 10 games with, but I mean, you have to do a gap analysis. This is what required through On the Podium. And so you take the top 3, or I think we did 5 teams in the world, and you see where your gaps are. And I mean, funding's always a gap, but I think it's better now. But one of our gaps was we had 3 players playing overseas. We had 3 professional players when I first started. And I mean, every other team had everybody playing professionally. So the players committed to that. And that was one of the things I said, we have to get more players playing at a high level. Like women can't go in and girls can't go in and beat women. So that I thought we could be fitter. I thought we could be stronger. I thought we could be tactically and technically a bit better because we needed the time to do that. And so, yeah, I got an anonymous $100,000 donation. At one point, a guy called me. I was not cool on the phone. I screamed. I coached his daughters at a camp. They were not high elite, and he liked what we were doing. And so we were able to do a big, long training camp prior to the Worlds and then qualify for the Olympics, which is what we neted. Couldn't do it now.
Yeah.
There's too many playing professionally, which is what we wanted. So yeah, there were a bunch of things, but I thought those things, and we had to get players to commit more than 2 years, 3 years. You got to be there for a quad. Like Teresa Gabriel qualified in 2000 and qualified in 2012. I mean, she stayed 3 quads. Kim Smith stayed, Lizanne Murphy stayed, Tamara Tatum stayed, Natalie Achonwa stayed. That's the only way you get better. You can't have players coming in and out playing. I'll play for a few years. So that ended. I said, "You're
so true." Actually, now that you say that, and watching the Olympics, like no matter what game I watched, what gender, most teams had some sort of legendary Olympian player, right? And either maybe they were a little past their prime and were coming off the bench, or they were still doing it, and it was kind of their 3rd appearance or whatever. That's such a I never thought of that. Yeah, it's
important to have experience and the pride of playing for your country. And we want to bring that back, like the pride of playing for. I remember when I first started with the national team, I called up a couple of players, and one said to me, well, I can't make it this summer, but if you qualify for the Olympics, call me. I said, I won't be calling you. Like, if you're not coming this summer to help us qualify, I won't be calling you. And that's what had to be said. Things had to be said to people who said, well, I want to take a summer off. No. I mean, now, yes, I can see where you might be able to do that a bit more, but we couldn't when we were building. So I think we were 22nd in the world when we took over. I left when we were 8th, and Lisa Tomaitis took them to 4th, and now Victor has them, and we'll see, I think we're 5th or 6th. Yeah. So, yeah.
And you think of it too on a global thing, like just sort of, if you have a women for her, 2-3 years, and then they're gone.
Yeah.
Another girl comes in who's young, and then she's got to go play in Venezuela in some wild crowd. She gets nervous.
Exactly.
You need that experience. You're not just playing U Sport against Laurentian versus Windsor. It's like there's experiences behind the basketball as well that you need to, okay, we've been here before. We're ready for this, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And the travel, you're right. The travel, the heat, the accommodations. I mean, we were moved in China from one hotel to another hotel. You couldn't shower there because the water came out brown. I mean, we were in, Teresa Gabriel, our starting backcourt at the Pan Ams in Dominican, got dengue fever, couldn't even play. We didn't even know if we'd get them. In fact, we didn't get Izzy back, but Teresa, I think, lost 12 pounds. They figured out she had dengue fever. We got her back. Like, there's just a lot of things you have to overcome. But you have to be so passionate about the game. Like I've said, the national team is not for everybody, and it is not necessarily for the best players. Some of the best players, I don't think, love it.
Are you reading my mind here? Yeah.
I
was going to ask you about going to pick those teams. Like, I always think of Jay's 2000 team, and like, no disrespect to anybody on that team, but you could tell they were unified in a team, and there was at no point, I don't think people were like, oh, I should be in the game or whatever, right? It was, you took what he thought would be the best unit. Is that an approach you took as well? Like
For sure. Yeah. And I think, we didn't have as many choices. I think when I first started, the depth of the pool, and they hadn't qualified since 2000. So it'd been 12 years. So, 3 quads, and there wasn't a lot of money. We didn't have money on the podium. We weren't a OTP sport on the podium. We weren't an on the podium sport. So if that guy hadn't donated that money, And he's an out of province guy, then I don't know where we would be. Like, I'm really grateful for that. And then we had a lot of help. Like, I had people from BC when we trained out at UFB, some UFB profs who just helped us out of the goodness of their hearts. So our sports psychologist, Roger Fries, and we had an exercise physiologist, Brandenburg, and he did some testing on us, like for free, just for, and for his science, I guess. But that's what I had to do. I had to drum up help. I mean, we didn't have a rental car when the players came in. We used our van and our car, and I claimed gas. And I mean, it's just, that's what we had to do. Like, it's just light years ahead of where we're at now, and it's where we want to be. I have, like, that was the vision. You hope that we don't have to stay in the dorms to a room anymore, that we don't have to use the family van, that we actually, and that's where it's neat to see it get where it is.
Totally. And I think this is great storytelling, because for the younger generation, people who think that it just arrived and the men's and women's teams, just popped out of nowhere. Kudos to so many staff, coaches, players that were willing to do it. And like you said, it's not for everyone. It's become a little bit more glorious because of the success of it, but the ones that grinded and got it to that level took a lot. How does go ahead.
I was going to say, Doug Smith, who writes for the covered us a lot, and I have kept the article. I don't know where it is. It's on my computer somewhere, but he talked about our team, and he said I won't quote him exactly, but they left to go to far-flung places to get better for Canada. I mean, Tamara and Lizanne played in Finland to start. I mean, we had people playing, I mean, all just to try to get a contract, try to get somewhere. And then they finished in France, and they're playing in the highest level. And that was a big push that I said, we have to have people playing professionally. We have to have the Bev Smiths of the world that are committed to getting better and playing at the highest level. If you can't just walk into a World Championships and Olympics if you're not playing at that level and think you're going to play. And even, I know we get excited about young players, and I had Natalie Chalmers when she was 16, 17, and she was great. But you can't take high school kids and beat professional women. They need experience. They have to, so as excited as I get about the young kids, and I am, there's some very good ones coming along. They're not there yet. They're not going to beat France. They're not going to beat the US. They're not going to beat Australia. But with some veterans and some, then we have the players.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
That's a very good reflection. How does one summarize the Olympic experience up? I mean, you talked about it, you used the word pinnacle for you, right? And sort of just finding that moment of clarity of like, I think it's time for me to just sort of put Canada to the side. But how many people can go out and say we qualified for an Olympics and made it and did well? So
well, I think it was a journey. I mean, we didn't qualify. I think we lost by 8 to Brazil, and only one team went, and the Americans are always in here, so they're always going. And at the time we were coaching a team, Cuba's ranked 5th in the world. They don't even have a women's team anymore. Brazil was they came 3rd at the World Championships. So there's Brazil, Argentina women were good, and so I think the Americas is weaker, but we're better. So I think we're a little stronger, more depth. I think you just went out and played those games and learned and grew. And I think I lost your question there. Sorry.
How do you summarize the Olympic experience?
Yes, thanks. That was it.
No worries.
And so I think qualifying, the day we qualified, and it's on Canada Day, and it was the last possible berth, and it was kind of meant to be. We beat Japan, and we beat a couple of our top rivals, and that was, I thought, like, I'm a crier. I thought I'd be bawling my eyes out, but I wasn't. Everybody else was, and that's unusual because normally I am. But I was just, and people kept saying to me, were you relieved? I'm like, nope, that's not the feeling. It's not relief. Even the hard work the players put in, the amount of time the coaching staff committed, it was more just euphoric. Like, we did it, they did it. And I remember all the coaches were hugging, and we looked out, and our staff, our physio and Anne-Marie, our manager, had been with me from the very first trip I took to Argentina. And so we just looked out at the players. I remember this moment, we're all jumping around, when we looked at the players, and then that's when I got emotional. I'm like, they did this. Because we facilitated it, but they did it. Because all you can do as a coach is facilitate. They have to go out and play. So, and then getting to the Olympics, I mean, we played our best basketball. It was, we had we had like a 12-point lead on Russia and lost. And I'm just like, if Becky Hammond wasn't playing for them, we would have won. She's not my favorite. but you know, you look back and you go, we played well. We played well. We got to 2 Worlds. We got to an Olympics. I think we had a good couple quads, and then I felt like it was in a good place, and clearly it was, because we've gone now to 4 straight. And I think the men are well on. The men just didn't get their best players for years, right? So now they are, I think.
For sure.
Yeah. And I admire all the people that have played it, and same with the women. But yeah, and it was just, I remember going into the cafeteria, and it's amazing. And you see all the athletes come in, and we saw Djokovic, the tennis player, and then we saw Sabrina, I can't even say it, the other American tennis player, Serena. I want to say Sabrina because Serena, and I love her. And so she walked by, and you're kind of seeing all these athletes. Tony Parker, the men's team came in. You're like, okay, we fit here, like we should be here. And that's kind of how it felt. And cool. And the players, I think we got there early. Sports psychologist said you get there early, you take your pictures, you get your pins, you do all that, and then you get ready to play. And the players did that. And I remember thinking, well, we belong here. We've earned it. We've worked that hard. No one felt like we didn't belong, and we played well to get. I think to get top 8 at that time was good, and we were, pretty close to getting to the quarters, but I mean to the semis, except for the Russians. And now the Russians hardly have a team. So there you go.
It's funny, hey? Yeah.
The powers change. But it was a great overall experience. Opening ceremonies was cool. We didn't go to the closing. We went home. The players went to the closing ceremonies, but it was a flight issue.
Yeah,
craziness, but that happens. So it was overall a great experience. And the World Championships are pretty great too. Not the hype. Yeah. But you're playing. That's even like more top teams than the Olympics. But the Olympics is the hype, and it's everything because it's all the greatest athletes. And I think the players.
In some ways, the Worlds might even be harder just because it's so much longer, and you're changing country. Like it's a grind, hey?
It is a grind, And I think that's something that you're saying, like other countries, and this just popped into my head. It's also like when we first qualified for NAIA Nationals at Simon Fraser, we got down there and I went, because in the Pacific Northwest and in Canada, we pressed, we ran, we scored big. Like the players used to joke about an unspoken rule, which was score 100. I didn't know about it for years, but unspoken goal. But then I realized if we wanted to try to win that, we had to maybe play a bit differently. And that was the same with the national team. Our first foray into things, you're like, well, we have to play more intelligently than other teams because we might not be quite as athletic as the US and France and some of the other teams. And so you kind of figure out your style of play and what suits your personnel. And so we were smart and we executed and we played great defense. And so we felt good. We felt good after the Olympics. Yeah. And I knew it was in a good place too, going forward.
Yeah. That's good. It's important because we had Steve Bauer on the show, and he talked about Tokyo and just how it didn't feel good, right? And so you can have so many different emotions, and to get there, and then so there's so many things to it, right? Yeah.
And I think there is something about building and the expectations.
Yes.
And then you've built, and now, I mean, it happened at Simon Fraser too. We're just happy to go to nationals, and then we lose in the in the final, and then we lose in the final. But you do have to reflect, as you've been saying about reflection. You have to step back and reflect and go, okay, well, how do we get better? And moving forward, what do we do? And the players have to look at, well, why didn't we perform our best? And what was wrong with the environment? Was there something wrong? Yeah, I mean, everybody has to go back and look at how do we get better? And that's the best thing. There's a game tomorrow or next week, or we get better.
Exactly. Okay, one question for you before we you actually tell us more about was it like your favorite artists and stuff like that?
I've got that right here. I've got my notes.
You do. Oh yeah, you do. I love it.
Those were tough.
Okay, good. You've been too smooth already, so I got to make it a little bit difficult. Right. If we could ask you one final question, which would be, what advice would you give to a young person who wants to get into coaching basketball? Just off the top of your head, what advice would you give that person, someone who's maybe been involved in the game before but wants to figure out the X's and O's? What would you say?
It's a good question. There's so much, That's why mentoring, it takes more than a couple of calls when you're mentoring. I think there's a couple things. One is, I always think the biggest mistake I made when I was a young coach was, except I had Mike, I had my husband, who's a great basketball mind and a great coach, but I was afraid to ask for help because I thought it made me look like I didn't know what I was doing. And so when I was up at SFU, and it's going to happen, I'm not saying it happens to just me, it would happen to anyone. You get some criticism because you're like, if you're at SFU or UBC or UVic, you're going to get some criticism, and that's okay because you're at a level that people are watching, and that's good too. But so I was afraid to reach out a little bit and ask questions or look vulnerable. And I think now I would ask for more help. When I got with the national team, I called Ken and Kathy Shields. I went over and visited with them. Like I did more. I think I was more confident in myself and was sort of didn't really care if people were judging them, like they don't really know. So I'm not sure that even matters. Right. And I didn't really care at SFU either, but I think I was, so I would tell them to reach out to people. I mean, when coaches reach out and ask me something, like I don't brush them off. I mean, most people won't, I mean, if someone does that, well, that you called the wrong person, but you know, I think to reach out, I went to a lot of practices. So I didn't mention this earlier, but when Bev Smith was playing in the national team for Kathy Shields, they trained at UVic. I went over there, paid my own way, stayed in the dorms, watched every practice, you know, talked to Kathy a little bit and her staff. And then when Bev Smith was coaching, they were out here at Cap College. I went out to every practice they had there. I flew myself out to Humber College and I watched, well, Teresa Kleinitz had just made that, or was trying out for that team. That was part of it. I had recruited her, but I went out to watch the tryout and the training there, paid my own way. So those are things I think I did. I think I watched 4 national team full-on training camps before I ever got involved in the national team. And I think people think, well, I don't have to do that. Well, you don't even know what we're doing at the highest level, but you think you can get there, or you think you can send someone there. So watch practices, reach out to people. I still think going to clinics and having face on, like actually being at a clinic, seeing it on the floor rather than YouTubing is still healthy. YouTube's great too. So those things. And then I think, you know, if you want it, there's no secret. You got to work. You got to learn the game. You got to work at it. You've got to be open to new ideas. I think, you know, I had always been sort of a motion, ball screen, whatever, you know, some of that spacing. And we went to Princeton, which is also spacing and tons of great actions, you know, 2-player action, 3-player action. And I got some criticism for that. And like, it doesn't matter. This is what's going to be best for our team. And now you see everybody running Princeton actions. It's like split action here. The Lakers or the Warriors are doing. I'm like, well, that's Princeton. It's just maybe not quite as organized as we were. So I think you have to be willing to take some risks. You know, maybe go out there and do something a little different than everybody else is doing. So that'd be my advice. Probably too much.
Amazing answer. No, not too much at all. I think it's great. And I couldn't agree more. Kind of wish younger me wasn't as stubborn. I think we're guilty of that. And I think if the sooner people can get over sort of that, I know it all. It's kind of funny, right? Like working with teenagers too, is like, kid, don't be a selfish teenager right now. Think about, but then you kind of hit your mid to late 20s and you kind of go, oh, damn, maybe I don't know it all. Right. You know what I mean? So I think you're right. Yeah. Sure. Yeah. It's a great point.
I think I got a little bit of that. I got a little bit of that comeuppance when I got married because my husband knows a lot.
Yeah.
So I'd be like, oh yeah, I didn't know that. Well, that's interesting. And then he was connected to a lot of basketball people. So we were always in basketball conversations. And I think I learned a lot from that. And when I was at Oregon, Bev Smith and I worked the boys camps too, the men's camps. We actually got the little kids that ended up sort of drills and skills and take them to the pool. But I got to hear all the like Ernie Canton, like Jim Haney, all the top coaches talk, and we get to the meetings. And so I learned from them too. And you can learn from everybody and anybody. So yeah, I think I learned pretty quick. I didn't know it all, but yeah.
Did the TV ever get paused and then it just gets turned into basketball arguments, or how did you guys work your way through all that? I've always wondered that, like, because it's a very unique story, right? Because like the two of you so involved, such great basketball minds. Like, was it like?
I was waiting for that question because everybody asked me that question. Well, first of all,
I don't want to be like everybody here.
No, that's what I said. You missed that one, and I thought that's fine. But well, I mean, I don't know. I think first of all, Mike understood I was the head coach for the national team, but also and you know this, you're married. There's nobody that can tell you like your spouse, whether it's good or bad, and you believe them because you love them so much and you trust them so much. And I have to say, Lisa Tomaitis, phenomenal coach, University of Saskatchewan, our national team, and now the German national team. she also was a truth teller to me, and I trust and love and care about her also. So when they, I had that, and Mike and I have always had that, where if he tells me something, I believe him. If he's like, you need to, like, you didn't handle that very well, or, okay, I think we should do this, but I'm not going to make you do it, whatever, tactically. And so I think that, and then we were able to kind of come home and leave it. Yeah. Just never really had a serious discussion about it, just that we could. But I mean, we both are very passionate about it. Sure. So if I was watching something, I could, and he was some other room, I could take it there and we would talk about it. And he did a lot of the national team stuff. I couldn't ever have done all the film. We didn't have anyone. Like now they've got people breaking down the film. We broke down the film. Yeah. Mike and I mostly, but Mike did a ton of it. He just did a ton of it. So he'd be at Basketball BC all day, clinics on the weekend, and then doing film, getting us ready. So yeah, I think one of our physiotherapists, Joan, she was with the team forever. She said, Canada Basketball never understood how lucky they were when they got 2 for 1 on U2. I'm like, got that right.
It's true.
Yeah, they didn't. Yeah. And we had our sports psychologist came one time. He said, is this like a total mom and pop operation? I'm like, well, it is right now because there's no money. So I got my husband. But also when I got the job, I said, I want Mike as an assistant coach. It's not nepotism, because I've done lots of stuff without him, but he's like so good. He's so good with film. He's so good. The players loved, he can break things down. He's probably a little more technical than I am, in terms of some of the skill development and that. He'll be a little more technical. And I thought that was good for me. Lisa's a brilliant coach, brilliant mind, outstanding offensively. And I would say, I really leaned on her for that. So I think it's kind of, Mike and I, we found a way. He's awesome. Super supportive. He's super supportive, that's for sure.
Now, what do you like on the golf course?
Oh, well, he's way better than me. He won the club championship here a couple times, and he's super helpful.
Relax, Mike McNeill.
Yeah, we've traveled a lot. We've been to Ireland, Scotland 3 times golfing, Portugal twice. Wow. Yeah, we just love it. Yeah, and I'm glad he got me. He kind of got me into it. I don't know if I ever would have done it. Yeah, that's awesome. But he's very good, and he's also super supportive out there.
Yeah, of course he can be, because he's better than you, bugger.
Yeah, well, that's true. That's true. Yeah.
I love playing with my buddies that are way better than me, and they're like complimenting me. I'm like, yeah, you're like 12 strokes ahead of me. Thanks for my bogey. True. Yeah. Like, yeah. I think you're kind of needling me. Anyways, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
You ready?
Yeah. Yeah. I've got my list.
Okay. We've got peak Allison McNeill at the point. We're at Kitts Beach. It's you and 4 other players now. I'm interested to see where you take this, because you could go players you coach, players you played with, players you would like to play with. I don't know. What do you got for us?
Well, I'm wondering what you think I might have.
I thought you were going to go just some of your favorite teammates of all time.
Oh my gosh, right on. You know me already. Okay, so me and 4 other players to play with. Bev Smith. Well, of course, Bev Smith. All world. Played over in Italy. Phenomenal player, national team, I don't know how many million years. If you can average 24.6 points, shooting 60%, you're good. Beast. And she played, she played over in Germany and Spain for so many years. I'm going to have to go with Teresa Kleindienst Gabriel at the point, because her passion and her on-ball defense, and she's just the most amazing player. And zen, calm, played her best basketball when it mattered all the time. She was injured a bit at the Olympics, but still played. And I'm going to pick a 5th, and then I'm going to come off the bench as the player coach, because I know my limitations. I would be a great player coach, probably as a little more successful coaching. And it's going to be Jordan Noor. Because, and now we're talking about everybody in their prime, and she hasn't hit her prime yet, but I'm picking her because I understand potential. And because she can score, her basketball IQ is off the charts, and she would be able to play with all these people because she's smart and skilled and a team player. And so I would pick that 5: Bev, Sil, Mish, Teresa, and Jordan. And I'm coming off the bench as a player coach. I can back up Teresa and Jordan if I have to.
You have to, yeah.
That's it.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
You covered a lot of eras too. Well done.
Yeah,
You
that
did
was
think
easy,
about
actually. It
it.
wasn't that hard.
No,
No, there were lots of good players,
of
but
course.
I would have fun with those people. They're all high IQ and we got some scorers there.
Love
Yeah.
it. Okay, other than making consistent bogeys, do you have a hidden talent we don't know about?
I don't. No,
Really?
I can't. No, I can't do anything.
Hmm.
Nope, nothing. I tried to think of
You
something there
can't
and I
like run
really don't.
backwards on the treadmill behind you or something? No?
No, I
Yeah.
walk
Okay.
backwards on the treadmill a little bit, but
Yeah.
yeah, I'm pretty good in the gym. I'm pretty good at lifting, but I don't think that's a secret talent. I'm just trying to stay strong as I age. I really don't have anything. I'm not a
Love it.
great cook. I don't have any crafty side to me.
Okay.
I'm a music lover. I know a lot of music. So my parents owned a movie theater when I was growing up,
No
so I
way.
love movies. Yeah, yeah. In
Awesome.
Princeton, the Capitol Theater. Yeah, my sister, my mom, dad, we all worked at the theater. I worked there my
Oh,
whole.
okay.
Yeah, yeah.
So then what is it?
Love
Is it
movies.
books or movies?
Oh, well, I've got books because movies, I'm very eclectic and I hardly ever watch one twice. Yeah, I don't have like favorites like that. Michael go, let's watch that. I'm like, I've seen it. Well, let's watch it again. No.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. No, I have
You just want to
way too
hold on
many.
to that memory of that movie and not,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
And I have very eclectic taste in movies. I mean,
Okay.
obviously, like I like sports movies and stuff, but yeah, I
Sure.
don't have a favorite really. Yeah. Sorry on that one.
That's okay. So, but if
But
you got a,
books,
so if you had a choice,
read a book or watch a movie?
yeah.
Ooh, I do. I usually do both. Like
Okay.
we read every day, Mike and I, usually over coffee. Sometimes
Yeah.
it's Starbucks or at home,
Yeah.
and so we read every day. And then we like movies at night, but probably we're now on Netflix, Apple TV,
Yeah.
watch a lot of that. Used to go to the theater a lot because I grew up in a theater and I like going to the theater, but not as much anymore. Probably
Now
getting
you got to
older.
refinance your mortgage just to
I know,
get a
yeah, I
popcorn and a
know.
theater
Yeah.
ticket, right?
Well, and sometimes I'm just like, let's just stay home. Let's stay
Yeah,
in.
for sure.
But yeah, I
The
mean, I
thought of
like
getting in
Ted
the car and the
Lasso.
effort, you think about
Yeah,
like we
sometimes.
used to go to Blockbuster like it was nothing, and now I'm like,
I know.
do I really want to
Yeah.
bother to go to the movie theater? But you just have way more options at home now too,
Yeah, you
right?
do.
So
Yeah,
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 yeah.
it's true.
Are you
So,
reading
yeah.
something right now, or is there something?
Yes.
Well, do
Oh,
you reread a book?
oh no, not
No, so
usually.
just the same
I will
thing.
take notes from a book sometimes. Occasionally,
Okay,
I'll go back to a book to I remember something that I wanted. So,
okay,
yeah, occasionally. Yeah.
okay.
This one I'm reading right now.
Yeah,
So this is rather timely. So, Autocracy Inc., talking
okay,
about autocrats and across the world, the dictators who want to run the world. I think it's kind of timely right
okay,
now.
yeah,
And
uh-huh,
it's really good. So it's really good. I just started that. Mike just finished it. So I'm reading that right now.
okay,
Right there's my little bookmark.
yeah,
Really good.
okay,
Then I saw this is one I read and it's kind of got me started when I was at FFU. So Winning is an Attitude.
okay.
A season in the life of John Chaney and the Temple Owls. It's
Oh
old,
yeah,
1991,
he was a
but it
beauty though.
almost coincided with my time up at SFU. And I remember I took notes all through this one and used some of his things he said and more about the coaching, not the tactics or anything technical.
Sure.
That was really
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
Then I have this one that our sports psychologist with the national team recommended. It's unbelievable read. Racing,
Ah,
the art of racing in the rain. Oh,
read that.
so good, eh? Oh, that was so good. Love that. Then this one is our sports psychologist also recommended Rafa,
Oh,
and
good.
I keep my favorites. Yeah, it's so good because it
I'm the same.
speaks
I get
to
rid of I keep my
yeah,
favorites. So yeah,
I
yeah,
know. It speaks to the essence of competing and training and commitment. He's just unbelievable. Well, he's had a lot of injuries, but he's been had
yeah,
such longevity in the way he took care of
for
himself
sure.
and his uncle who trained him and how he competed. But also like, I don't know if you ever followed like at the end of, well, it's now nearing the end of his career, but of the other great tennis player from Switzerland.
Better.
Thank you.
Yeah.
How they competed but were really good friends, and I think that's something that I've always believed, that you can compete like crazy and still be a good person, and
Hmm.
it's really good. I'd recommend it for athletes.
Nice.
Really good. This is called The Rise: Creativity, the Gift of Failure, and the Search for Mastery, and it is unbelievable.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, Sarah Lewis served on President Obama's Arts Policy Committee. She's been selected for Oprah's Power List and went to Harvard. It's just really good. So it's, Creativity, the Gift of Failure, and the Search for Mastery. It's
Nice.
one of my favorites.
Love that title.
Yeah. And then these two are weird. Well, fascism, this is another one. So
Okay.
Madeleine Albright, just a brilliant woman. She grew up in the Czech Republic when it was Czechoslovakia, when it was fascism. And she's just so brilliant. And so it kind of tells you what's going on around the world. And I don't want to get into specific politics, but even other countries that we know about, Venezuela and the problems in other countries. So it's really good. And then this one, it's the last one. So Being Mortal. It's really good. It's medicine and what matters in the end. So it's for when you get older.
Sure.
Yeah, it's really good. It helped me. My dad passed away a year ago, February, and I was very, very close to him, and it really helped me kind of navigate some of that also, but also then for myself. So there you go. Those are my faves.
Now,
Show and
do
tell.
you find your no, I love it. And I hopefully the readers, our previous episode, I took the book the guy recommended. Now, have you always been a reader, or do you find yourself just because
I have time.
Yeah.
You have time. Yeah. No, I would say I only read basketball stuff. Mostly my mom couldn't get me to read when I was young. My sister's a lawyer, and she's a family lawyer, and she was a reader and a writer and kept a diary, and I didn't do any of that.
Yeah.
And my mom had to buy me like 2 books on Pete Maravich. She got me Sports Illustrated when I was pretty young, like to get me to read. And she would read to us. I know she read Charlotte's Web, but I didn't really like it. I was pretty active, and I always wanted to be going. And then when I went to Germany to play, and there's no TV to watch, and my teammates were off doing their thing, and I started to read there, took books out from the library. I mean, I read through university, obviously my textbooks, but I wasn't really get a book and read. I just didn't have time, never had time. So that's been a huge thing since we've retired, and I have time and love it. Yeah.
It's a nice way to
exercise for the brain.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Totally.
It is. Yeah. And actually, if I was smart, I would have done it more when I was coaching.
Got it. Live and learn. You're
so
here now.
All
You're
basketball
doing it.
Then. I'm doing it now. I love it.
Good.
Love reading. Both my parents read a lot. They were big readers.
Cool. Okay, so you've mentioned music quite a few times here. So I'm guessing we've got more than one concert we're going to. Best seat in the house. You take whoever you want. Who we got now? Maybe you've seen them already.
Only got
Maybe
one.
you want. Oh, you've got one.
Yeah, I've got one. Actually, my roommate at University at Oregon, Marianne Stoiken, she the teacher coach in Gig Harbor, Washington, but she was a rocker, and so we went to quite a few concerts together. So I've seen Journey, and we saw I can't remember them all now, so many. Anyway, but she was a rocker too, and so was I. But I have never seen the Foo Fighters, and that would be who I would go see. Yeah, I love them. Yeah, I play Foo Fighters.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, so that's probably who I would go see. I listen to them a lot, and I would definitely go see them.
They would put on an amazing show too.
Yeah.
Do they still tour?
Yeah, I think they do.
Yeah.
I watch a lot of them on YouTube. So we have friends that when we get together, we go on YouTube and we play concert clips that we all like. So there'll be 6 or 8 of us sitting around, and they're always like, "Oh, here comes Allison's pick." Oh my God! Like, they'll come up with, I don't know, Luciano, like some good singer, and I'm like, "Hey, I've got the Black Crowes, or I've got I've got."
Love it.
Yeah. But the Foo Fighters, I just really like their stuff, and I like him, and David Grohl, and I read his biography. It's outstanding. Yeah. His mom was a teacher.
Hey, there you go.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool.
So them, I wouldn't even have to think about anyone else, just them.
Oof. Yeah, I wasn't expecting that. Well done. You've been the surprises. All right. Well, it's Ted Lasso night.
Yes.
If you're feeling a little risky, what bag of chips are you getting? Do we eat chips in the house?
Well, I'm not a big chip. I'm a chocolate person. I'm a sweet person. I'm
certain type of chocolate or any?
Oh, well, I'm celiac, so it has to be gluten-free. Everything has to be gluten-free. But I like there's these really good things. They're made in Delta, and they're I should have brought one up to show you. They're chocolates, and you can buy them at the grocery store, and they're just good. So I like chocolate, but I do eat chips occasionally, and I like to support Canadian. So I am a Hard Bites gal, avocado and lime, and they are a Surrey company. And Hard Bites. That would be my avocado and lime.
Have you had the chance to watch Elgin Park play, the men's side, the last few years at all?
Yeah, Kirk
Okay.
Dominic, he's
He own,
involved.
he owns the company.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, you knew that. Okay.
More than involved.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you're like saying it all casually. Okay. Shout out to
Yeah.
Kirk. Great guy.
Yeah. Yeah, he is.
Love the hard bite call. Although I
I know.
noticed that bag is not open yet. Get on it.
No.
Okay.
I'll be eating those later.
Okay.
Yeah. No, that, and actually I probably, and they're gluten-free and they're non-GMO, and you're kind of always looking for the healthy snacks. And yeah, I didn't actually really ever love potato chips till I tried hard bites. Now I
love it. Great call. Get on it, Kirk. Send her a box. Okay. Life comes in chapters. The journey, it takes a long time, but along your way, who have been some of the most important people in your life?
Yeah, that was a good one, because there's always so many, and I can't obviously say them all, but I read once, it was in a book called The Best Advice from Older Americans or something like that. And it said that the most important decision you'll ever make in your life is your life partner. And I made a great decision. He did too. But so Mike, I mean, I just think, we've always been able to sort out things and work together and support each other, lift each other up. And it's been really great. So he's the most important thing and person in my life. My parents, obviously, and my family, my sister, my family. She's got 3 kids and grandkids, and so all of them. But I wouldn't say that they were super important in my basketball journey, but just in supporting. Both my nieces went to SFU. One graduated political science, the other in English, and so they both attended there, which is kind of neat. So I was coaching there at the time. Yeah, and then like I said, other than that, my parents' family. From a basketball standpoint, I'd have to say my high school coach, Joe Kupke. My very first basketball coach, Arnie Carlson, like grade 5, I guess. We played in the school. And then definitely my high school and university teammate, which I've mentioned about a million times, Bev Smith.
Yep.
And then I think our, a longtime assistant, when you're with someone as much as Lisa Tomitis and I were together, there's just a lot of, I think, influencing each other. She was, I can't remember what they called her, but she came on one trip when Bev was coaching, and I was there and she was there, and that's when we first met. And then, she assisted me my whole time. I just really connected with her, and she's brilliant. So I think, her, but then, I mean, this, Aaron, because you coach, but like all the players, because you learn from all of them, and they teach you so much, and you blunder through some things and they forgive you, and they understand that you're not perfect. And so all the players, I've had so many. You mentioned it earlier, like I don't really think about, oh, wow, I've influenced so many, but I just know I've had such a great connection with so many amazing women. Like I said, if I had an autobiography, I think I'd just call it My Life with All These Amazing Tall Women or something. like it's just, I've been very lucky to have that. So the players, and they're the reason I still get involved and I still coach. And
for sure.
Love
it.
Probably it. Lots more, I'm sure, but I always miss someone.
No one would be offended. If you, in your younger days, were a sucker for cereal, was there a cereal you would go for?
I wasn't really a sucker for cereal. I do remember alphabets. I remember those, but I don't remember having.
Did you listen to Kim Smith's episode, by the way?
No, I haven't.
She asked about candy. Sorry. She says, we asked her about chips. She says, well, I don't really like chips or whatever, but like I like oranges. I'm like, this is why you're a multi-time Olympian and I'm hosting a podcast, right? Like I almost fell off my chair. I was laughing so hard. So
well,
I can see you trying to find a graceful answer to not let me down here about cereal. So
alphabets.
I'll let you navigate through this.
I brought a cereal. So this one,
look at
classic
this.
granola.
Okay.
And it's
milk or yogurt
from I'm celiac, so it's cashew milk. Cashew milk. Sometimes yogurt, coconut yogurt. 1 Degree Organic Foods, and it says all ingredients from farmers we know, and it's Abbotsford. So I'd like to buy local, and I like to try to think of that 100 miles from here. I mean, I'm not a perfect eater by any means, but that's the one that I've been on for a while, and I really like. So it's they're good. I do like some cereals.
I could tell there was a level to it when you said your favorite chocolate was from Delta. You didn't say
from Delta,
like a store or something. You said Delta. I was like, okay,
it's made in Delta, BC, and they're truffles, and
they know what they like.
I like the orange truffles. I have my things.
There you go.
But I do try to, go local as much as we can, just because I think it's good for the economy and good for people. And yeah, I do look at labels. Yeah, good questions. Good questions.
Now, last one.
Okay.
Who's out there for the podcast? Who's someone who has a great story? And I know you have.
I was thinking about Gordy Herbert, but you had him.
Had him, yeah.
Because I just like Gordy, and I think what he's done is pretty neat. Yeah,
one of the best stories out there, and just sort of in the terms of Canada, I don't think talked about enough. But anyways, it was a pleasure.
100% agree. Yeah, I nominated him for Basketball BC Hall of Fame, and he got in. I was thrilled. But I think we're both 65, and he was in Penticton when I was in Salmon Arm. So he, like, you knew him, and I mean, there wasn't all this stuff now. So if you knew someone, you're lucky if you saw them in the gym and saw them play, but you sort of knew of them or somebody. Or anyway, I've always but I would say if you can get Bev Smith, that'd be a good get. I don't know if you've done Michelle Henry. I don't think so.
Nope.
Yeah, she'd be a great get.
Yeah.
And I thought Misty Thomas is local, someone asked me to pick a top 5 players or something, and she was one that, not that I was going to play with because I couldn't fit her in with that group, but but like, she was a great player for Canada, and she had a lot of injuries, and then she played some wheelchair basketball, but she's local. She might be interesting for you.
Awesome. Okay. You know what they call this? Hey, you're the plug. You're the connection.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, there you go. I think Bev, Michelle, Misty would all be excellent.
And great stories. I agree. I agree. And
they're all BC and all had really different experiences and traveled the world and have coached, not coached, and different things. Yeah.
From a coach's perspective, thank you so much for all the time, effort, and energy you've given back to the game. It's greatly appreciated. The countless hours of times in gyms when no one knows about, the players that you've connected with that people don't know about, the ones that aren't necessarily the national teams and the SFUs, the young 13-year-old girl who needs to work on her left hand on a Tuesday morning, right? And those are the things that I know you've been doing and others know you've been doing. And thank you for all your time towards Canada, and that you're still continuing at your age, and not that you're old, but a lot of people could just walk off and play golf and read. And you're still trying to find a way to impact humans, whether it's through the game or not. And I think that's so huge and so valuable. And for someone who's thinking more closer to retirement than he was starting his career, I often sit and find myself with a coffee in the morning thinking, what am I going to do when I retire? Because I want to stay busy too. So hearing stories like yours selfishly is great for me. And I hope other people heard it as well. Any last thoughts or reflections before we let you go off and argue about what TV to watch before bedtime?
Well, I mean, there's lots of ways to give back into the game, and I just have been very grateful that I've had a varied career, and that's not saying anybody else shouldn't have, but I mean, I did work for Tri-Cities Youth Basketball for a 5-year contract, and had so much fun. I did their boot camps, I did their grade 9 to 12 league clinics, I did their coaches clinics. It was just really fun to immerse. I did the grade 2 stuff. I went in and worked with parents who were coaching teams and helped them get better, and sometimes I'd book 3 of those in an evening and just be driving home on a high thinking, geez, I just helped some people get better, and they're going to help these kids get better. And so I think that is like, you get as much out of that. And that's just what I enjoy. I enjoy that. And then I think I've gotten so much back from all the women I've coached, and just to see the things they're doing, and to think you had even if it's just 4 years of their career, you had a little part in their life, and they in yours. But anyone that says that coaching is anything but relationships, even at the highest level, that's what it's about. And I don't think you can call yourself successful even if you win. That's just this personal opinion. Even if you win, you can't call yourself successful if you haven't made people's lives better.
Oof.
Yeah.
What a way to end it. I'll say this. I teach a leadership class. People that listen to most of the episodes will die because I reference it all the time. But we had our first class yesterday. And I told them, I just said, I want you to learn. I want some spaghetti on the wall. And I said, if there's one thing you take away, is that leadership is about relationships. So, boom. Yeah. I don't think we could have ended the podcast any better. Miss McNeill, thank you so much. Continued health.
Thanks for asking me.
Continued success, continued happiness. Here's to some birdies. Here's to some nice chips.
Yeah.
Here's to some great books and on the deck
Yeah.
and enjoying time in whatever it is you choose to do. Episode 143 with an absolute Canadian and British Columbian everything legend. We are so honored. Thank you for being with us. Thank you to our listeners and sponsors, and we will see you on the next one.